Hi, I'm Berta, and in this video, I want to address a bit this question of how to work with clients that say I can't be hypnotized. Where my mind goes when I hear this question is mainly in two directions. So, what made, how is the hypnotherapist thinking like this, or what made the hypnotherapist ask this question, and what made the client think if they can or cannot be hypnotized? But also in a third direction as well, which is what do we think at all of hypnosis or hypnotherapy? And not because I would want to delve into a discussion about the definitions or prove something, because there are different kinds of hypnosis and hypnotherapy, and different people resonate with one more than the other, but in hope to just bring it a bit closer to those that need and are willing to go about other options when they are stuck. So to go with the first one, for some practitioners, it is not because they're questioning the method that they use, but simply because they rely on hypnosis as a technique to work with their clients. So when a client says, I can't be hypnotized, and that's all they have, it's sort of a not the best, thing to hear as a hypnotist. Like if they had under their belt some other method or tools, to address which focus on specific needs of the clients that say cannot be hypnotized or think that they cannot, they could switch to that, but otherwise it becomes hard. So even though, as you probably have noticed by now, if you have watched my other videos, I don't use hypnosis as a technique to start a session or any techniques or tools like scripts or deepeners or suggestibility test for that matter, nor I teach it, but I have been on that side, so I can speak about it. Now, how I work with clients, just to bring it forward, is that is the way how I teach it, is simply recognizing and pay attention to naturally occurring unconscious or automatic moments during a conversation. So everything naturally becomes all it is needed in a session, and go from there. So also to mention that there is a lot of research done to see what happens during a conversation, in hypnotherapy, where there's a heightened focus, no matter how hypnotizable or not the clients are. And it is shown, if you search a bit more about it, that during that communication, different hormones like oxytocin and endorphins naturally emerge, either in the therapist or the client, that the hypnosis becomes secondary for the success of the session. But to say only a few words in those cases when hypnosis is all you use, and how to see how hypnotizable is a person. So when you tell a client to look up and close their eyelids down, if the client closes their eyelids in a fast manner, then you can see that their pupils are as if they would have them when they look straight with their eyes open, the moment that they close their eyes. And even if you try like several times, also by saying roll up instead of just pointing with your finger for them to look up, they are not easily hypnotizable, if at all. And if their eyeballs stay up while they slowly close their eyelids down, so you can see the white of the eyeball, that is telling you that they are more easily hypnotizable. So what you would want to be in the first case, if it's your only way, you still need to really talk to the client about how they feel that way initially, and then teach them how to do it themselves without pushing them hard. So you take the pressure off of them and can continue from there. But in this case, you see, as a byproduct of talking to them, a natural hypnotic state will probably emerge. But in that case, you would need to really pay attention to those moments and turn their worth into yours and your client's favor in the absence of artificially induced trance. However, when you start working with a client that comes in with high anxiety levels, this kind of rapid inductions that in other cases may help are very hard because even though these clients are highly suggestible, looking high up is causing high alert state, and they are already in an alerted state that bothers them. On the other hand, closing their eyes, while alert, it's not the thing that they would want to do in these moments, as they already feel like being out of control, you see. And the thing now is that any state that for them is out of control, it is an unconscious cue not being paid attention to at that moment. And if succeeded, to succeeding to hypnotize them, then they may go very deep, which is the opposite of anxious. It's a lot of work to make them communicate as you planned to. One, because of that kind of depth of hypnosis, and the other because knowing how the unconscious works while we, don't pay attention to it like previously, it wouldn't reveal much the next time, and so on. So if you're insisting, it would take really a lot of prior report building time or trust altogether. Now, relaxation audio probably would be required too, and that is all, good and right, but we haven't delved into the heart of the problem yet. So there was therefore so much time and many sessions before the real therapy start taking place, meaning before starting to inquire about the payoff of the problem. So, there are also others that deep down know that there must be more to it, because they simply don't feel comfortable with the rapid inductions. So these hypnotherapists want to know more. Now, from the client's perspective, although I can also speak from experience, as I always, have tested everything on myself before ever working with anyone, but because I also talk to the clients, and even though it doesn't anymore arise as an issue, if it ever does, it is either from what these people, the clients, have read online, and is often such a narrow information that doesn't help the person to understand more, or from a previous experience, for example. Or if they are highly anxious, of course, they are curious to know more about how this thing works. Yet they also hear that so many people benefit from hypnotherapy that nonetheless they still want to give it a go. So, but it's just that they are questioning if it's going to be possible for them or not. And I should mention that even when a person is hypnotizable, if they decide they don't want to go in a trance state, they will not. So, this is also happening among hypnotherapists themselves. And I used to say that too, you see, to later only say that perhaps I'm hard to hypnotize, as I might be very analytical, but I was still working with clients because it could be the case with anyone. So that's not the point again. And why not? Well, not because it is happening or not, it's hard or easy, important or not important, or because it should be like this or like that, but because what I realized was that everything was important if relevant to the context, as long as it was helpful and when someone is asking for help. So 3 all significant moments for me, to my thinking, that made me realize this, or this realization possible, was one of the definitions of hypnosis, which I was always resonating more with, a personal experience than working with a brilliant colleague of mine that helped me in a very particular case with conversational method of hypnotherapy. And of course, the genius, but not, rare mentors that were promoting this method of conversational hypnosis. And that definition is actually saying that hypnosis is a natural state of an absorbed focus. But you see, I couldn't initially completely grasp the simplicity of this prior to my more of an advanced education, as ironically enough, the techniques that made it possible for me to use it in the first place were messing with the maths of it being a natural state. And what I said there, is already bringing me to that third point that I wanted to make on this video. So hypnosis is an absorbed focus and a deep relaxation at the same time, but that is a relaxation hypnosis. So because on the other hand, we know that in the absorbed focus, the body is not necessarily calm every second of it. So now you can see how it can be also like when we watch a movie or listen to a beautiful piece of music, because when we watch a movie, let's say if it's a scary movie or has a lot of action in it, we still have a focus, but the heart rate not necessarily will be steady all the time. And with music, if we like it a lot and feel like moving, we may dance and still be deeply involved in the moment. Now, the difference is that by chance, those moments could be therapeutic or stressful, but not necessarily will be. Or on the other hand, will not make us feel, bad by default, unless they represent some kind of a trigger. But in that case, we can change the channel in ideal circumstances. So even though it is a hypnotic state, you are in control in one hand. What you can understand from this is that while it is a natural state where you have a heightened focus, the focus is not just anywhere, but it is on something. So if on relaxing, it is relaxing. But if you have to induce it, and it's not easy with some clients, or you induce it, but they go so deep, and you insist talking during these moments, it is not effortless. So let's take another example. When someone engages, let's say, in a drinking activity, and say it's occasional situation, not an addiction. So they can choose to engage or not, but if they feel very good and have so much fun that if you go and tell them to stop, they won't be bothered, or will try to convince you otherwise, as they don't want to cut out from the fun. Until perhaps they get sick or not feel that well anymore, and then they stop or collapse. So it is a hypnotic state again, but focused on drinking and having fun. And focus is drawn from an external activity. And also it is not therapeutic as a state per se, because more alcohol, if it's a problem, will not be therapeutic. So what these different examples in life have usually in common is that they involve a heightened focus, so absorbed focus on something, but usually effortless. So not necessarily calming, but careless. And that's why, they're easy to engage on. So the hypnosis, as I talked briefly in the beginning, has all these in common too, but with one big difference, and another one, but first this one, which is very, very, very significant, that it can obviously be therapeutic. Why I say it can and not necessarily it is because especially if only used as a relaxation tool, underlying payoffs of a presented symptom will not be addressed intentionally, and it's like it will hit or miss, and the other difference with from those activities that we come across, and I think should point out as very important as well, are the feel-good hormones, from an external, that come from an external activity or focus, or an internal activity or focus. So a dopamine is released from an activity which involves a focus that is external to us, And dopamine, no matter that is a feel-good hormone, is a molecule associated with motivation and reward in one hand, and making us wanting more of what brought the motivation and the reward on the other hand. But we all know that while the motivation and reward, will bring us forward, when we try to solve something or achieve something that requires a lot of discipline and work put in, or start something from scratch altogether, it will not move us so much forward unless we remember all the time the reason why we are putting all that effort into something. So to relate, the external can be whatever brings us that momentary reward and joy, like, for example, sugary things, or an online game or movie series, when we binge watch those series or whatever on the screen, you can get more, of that motivation that comes with that kind of focus. And about this, you can have more insight if you look in the books like Dopamine Nation from the MD and I think psychiatrist Anna Lemke. And the other is The Molecule of More, if I'm not mistaken. It should, and in this books, it is explained, how when we engage in an activity that feels delicious, like when eating a piece of chocolate, for example, to notice the sensations and the thoughts going on in our mind in that moment. So it is really about, it is rarely about a desire of staying present, but it is usually a desire for more. So some of those things can be addictive too, if they are especially only used to cope with something or just relax. And on the other hand, serotonin, another feel-good hormone, I'm not a doctor, but these are things that interest me a lot, so I read about these, is like another good feel-good hormones, which tends to make us focus on the internal, makes us feel good about things that we already have, gives us that feeling of warmth, like when holding a loved one or a child, or spend time with your pet, let's say, or feel good about yourself. So it's about being present more, and also effortlessly staying focused on something that is important or dear to us. And in the organic conversation in hypnotherapy, that is exactly what we teach. So how to allow those moments that you'd need to induce otherwise with hypnosis, like deepness, convinceness, connecting the dots, integration, possibly regression back in time, and transformation, to naturally happen so effortlessly. And once a person resolves a conflict, they will be more appreciative of what they have and not seek as much, that thing always from something external. So more or less, that was it about this topic. So hope it was helpful, and see you soon for more content like this next times.